For months leading up to my 50th birthday, my family kept hyping it up. Just wait, they'd say with these knowing smiles. Something big is coming. Every time I brought it up, my wife would grin like she had a secret. Be patient, she'd tell me, her eyes sparkling. So, the big day finally rolls around and I come home to a completely empty house. No note on the counter, no text, not even a missed call. I figured maybe they were out grabbing dinner or picking something up. But hours went by. And then I saw it, a photo on social media that hit like a punch to the gut. There they were, my wife, both of our kids, my in-laws, everyone. Smiling, lounging at some beach resort I'd never even heard of. My son had captioned it, "He won't even notice we're gone, LOL." I didn't hit like. I didn't call. I didn't say a word. I just sat there and stared at the screen. 3 days later, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree, 56 WhatsApp messages, all of them frantic, begging me to respond. And there I was at 3:27 in the morning, sitting in my quiet, empty house, scrolling through picture after picture of a vacation I wasn't invited to on the day I turned 50. 25 years of marriage. 2 kids I thought I'd raised with love and effort. And this is how they chose to show their appreciation? They didn't forget me. No. They left me out on purpose. And honestly, that stung worse. Let me rewind a bit so this all makes sense. This whole disaster started about 2 months earlier. I began noticing something off with my wife, Sierra, every time my birthday came up. Not anything obviously wrong, more like she was being oddly secretive. She'd hush her voice when she talked on the phone, or she'd snap her laptop shut the second I walked into the room. At first, I thought maybe it was part of a surprise. Our daughter Maya, who's 21, kept giving me these sly grins and saying stuff like, "Dad, you're gonna love what we've got planned for your big 5-0. Even Logan, our 25-year-old son who usually doesn't show much interest in family stuff, had started dropping cryptic hints. I'll admit it, I got excited. I mean, 50's a big milestone, right? I wasn't expecting anything crazy or over the top. We're not the kind of family that throws lavish parties. We live comfortably, but we've got responsibilities. Maya's tuition eats up a good chunk of our savings, and just last month I gave Logan $5,000 to help with the down payment on his first apartment. It was money I really couldn't spare, but hey, that's what dads do, right? All the secrecy had me thinking maybe they were planning a surprise party or something. Sierra kept brushing me off, saying I needed to trust her and be patient. Even Harold, my father-in-law, randomly called me last week. He never calls unless he needs help with something around the house. But this time, he just wanted to know which day I was taking off for my birthday. I told him I'd requested the actual day off this past Tuesday, but it didn't work out. At 7:25 a.m. on my birthday, my boss called in a panic because we had a water emergency at the Riverside project. Someone had to handle it, and like always, that someone was me. I called Sierra from the car to tell her I'd be late but promised I'd be home in time for dinner. She sounded strange, distracted, almost. All she said was, "That works out fine," and hung up. I spent my entire birthday dealing with a busted water main and faulty equipment. No one at work even knew it was my birthday, and I didn't tell them. That's just not who I am. I was focused on getting through the day, counting down the hours until I could see whatever surprise was waiting for me at home. On the way back, I stopped and picked up a bottle of good whiskey, figured if nothing else, I deserved a decent drink. Pulled into the driveway at 4:37 p.m. and I noticed there weren't any extra cars out front. So much for a surprise party. The house was pitch dark. Not creepy dark, just empty. I figured maybe they were hiding, ready to jump out. But when I opened the door, nothing. No streamers. No balloons. No cake. No one. The kitchen was spotless, the living room silent. Not a single note explaining where they'd gone. I checked my phone again. No missed calls. Tried calling Sierra, straight to voicemail. Called Logan, same thing. Texted Maya, nothing. By 7:35, I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at that unopened whiskey bottle like it had answers I didn't. I started to wonder, had there been an accident? Was something wrong? I called the local hospital, nothing. I even tried calling Sierra's sister, Heather. No answer there either. By 8:13 p.m., I'd finally had enough. I opened the whiskey, poured myself a glass, and sat down. That's when I decided to check Instagram just to see if Maya had posted anything, maybe give me a clue. I don't post much myself. I mostly just follow the kids, see what they're up to. And then I saw it. A post from 4 hours earlier. There they all were. Sierra, Logan, Maya, Harold and his wife, Darlene, and of course Heather. All of them grinning on a bright white beach, drinks in hand, living it up at some fancy resort. Logan had captioned it, "Family vacation mode activated." He won't even notice we're gone, lol. He won't even notice. And the comments? They were somehow worse. Sierra replied with a laughing emoji and a "so true." Heather chimed in with something about workaholic husbands not appreciating the finer things in life. Maya didn't comment, at least, but she was there, smiling in every photo, sunglasses on, clearly enjoying herself like she didn't have a care in the world. I don't even know how long I sat there just scrolling. Group dinners, jet ski rides, poolside selfies, every single photo geotagged to that same resort. And all of them dated back to 2 days ago. So while I was busting my back at a job site, they were sipping cocktails and watching sunsets. Remember that Sheryl Crow song about irony? Yeah, this was that. Real bitter irony. I'd spent years feeling guilty for working too much, for missing school plays, for falling asleep early on weekends. And why? Because I was doing everything I could to give them a better life. I've been putting $450 a month into Maya's college fund since she was born. That $5,000 for Logan? It meant I had to put off replacing my beat-up truck again this year. I've never missed a single mortgage payment. I've skipped vacations because there was always some expense that took priority. And this is how they repay me? I don't know what took over, shock, anger, maybe something colder, but I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't even leave a comment. I just poured another drink and started thinking. The first thing I did was check our bank accounts. Sure enough, last Friday, $5,000 had been withdrawn from our joint savings account. The exact amount I'd given Logan. Coincidence? Yeah, right. I started scrolling through older posts. Turns out Harold had been dropping hints about a special family getaway for weeks. So this wasn't some last-minute thing. They'd planned it. Without me. Around me. In spite of me. And they didn't even try to hide it. By midnight, my sadness had hardened into something sharper. I grabbed my laptop and started keeping track of everything. Screenshots of their posts. Copies of bank withdrawals. A full timeline of every lie and half-truth they'd fed me. Here's the thing about guys like me, the quiet ones who just keep showing up and doing the work. We notice more than people think. We remember everything. And when we finally hit our limit, we don't blow up. We start planning. I spent the rest of my birthday organizing our entire financial history in Excel spreadsheets. 25 years of marriage, laid out in numbers. Who paid for what? Who sacrificed? Who showed up? And believe me, the math didn't lie. It told a story they wouldn't want to hear. Around 2 a.m., I stumbled across something else. Sierra had left her email logged in on the home computer. We used to share passwords back when trust meant something. That's how I found the statement for a credit card I didn't even know existed. Over $15,000 in debt. Built up quietly over the last 3 years. Designer clothes, spa packages, fancy lunches with Heather that somehow cost $210 a pop. Turns out, the most recent credit card charges were from the very resort they were lounging at. Almost $5,000 spent already. And listen, I'm not the emotional type. I don't cry often, if ever. But I felt that tight, hot pressure behind my eyes. Not from sadness. From pure, blistering anger. That kind of sting when you're sitting there wondering how the hell you became invisible to the people you've spent your whole life showing up for. When the sun came up, still nothing. No birthday wishes. No "are you okay?" texts. Not even a single check-in. Just more happy-go-lucky beach posts, including a video of Logan doing karaoke with Harold. The caption? "Dad would hate this, lol." And you know what? He was right, I would hate that. Not the karaoke. The smug assumption that I didn't matter. I got up, took a shower, went to work like it was any other Wednesday. Came home, checked Instagram again. Day 2 of their little tropical getaway was well underway. Sierra's friends were flooding her comments asking how the resort was. And her reply? "It's heaven. So nice to get away from real life for a while." Real life. That's me she's talking about. I'm the real life she needed to escape. That line hit me harder than anything else. So I poured myself another glass of whiskey and started taking action. At 9 a.m. sharp the next morning, I called my bank and had my next paycheck rerouted into a brand new account they helped me set up. After that, I rang up my buddy Blake. the one who went through a nasty divorce last year, and asked if he still had the number for his lawyer. He did. I saved it. Then I walked into the master bedroom and started moving Sierra's clothes into the guest room closet. It wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't impulsive. I was methodical about it, like you would be if you discovered termites in your foundation. You don't slap a coat of paint over rot. You dig in, see how deep it goes, and then decide whether what's left is even worth trying to fix. By day 3 of their vacation, day 2 after they ghosted me on my 50th birthday, I finally got a message from Maya. Just a casual, "Hey Dad, how's it going?" Like she wasn't poolside at a resort I paid for. Like she hadn't just skipped my milestone birthday. Like it was any normal day. I didn't reply. An hour later, Logan texted asking if I could check his old room for a laptop charger. No mention of where they were. No apology. No acknowledgement that they left me behind. That got no response either. By evening, the tone shifted. Sierra texted, asking if I was upset about something. Maya called me twice. Then Logan sent this awkward message. "Mom's kind of freaking out. Can you just text her back?" Still, I said nothing. Instead, I posted something of my own. My first Instagram post in months. Just a photo of me sitting at home, alone, with a sad little grocery store birthday cake. No caption. No emojis. No hashtags. Just a timestamp. That's when the floodgates opened. At exactly 9:39 p.m. on day 3, my WhatsApp exploded. Message after message. Sierra went into full panic mode. Logan actually sounded worried. Maya sent voice memos that grew more tearful by the minute. By the time midnight rolled around, I counted 56 messages across every platform. Texts, DMs, emails, you name it. The last one came from Sierra. "We're coming home tomorrow. Please be there. We need to talk." Oh, we'll talk. But not before I made one last stop. I drove out to the hardware store and picked up a new set of locks for the front and back doors. Because sometimes people need to learn, really learn, what happens when they take someone for granted. Some lessons don't belong in the sand. They need to be carved into stone. Update 1. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who's reached out after my last post. I wasn't expecting thousands of comments, but I read as many as I could. Some folks called me a doormat. A few said I should burn the whole house down. Figuratively, of course. And believe me, I appreciate the fire. But I've always been more of a slow burn kind of guy. Quiet, steady, thorough. So, about those 56 messages. Message number 1 came in at exactly 9:39 p.m., 3 days into their beach vacation. It was just Sierra typing, "Graham, are you there?" By message 47, at 3:34 a.m., she was full-on pleading. "Please just answer me. I'm freaking out. Let me be honest here. I've been married for 24 years, and not once in all that time have I ever intentionally ignored my wife when she was worried. Even during our biggest blowouts, I always picked up the phone. But hey, there's a first time for everything. I didn't sleep that night. I sat out on the back deck, watching those messages roll in while scrolling through their Instagram feed. The contrast was surreal. Sierra texting, "Graham, please, I'm worried," while her feed showed her grinning over mojitos at a beachfront restaurant just 2 hours earlier. Logan asking if I was alright while tagging himself at a jet ski rental. Maya sending tearful voice notes from a poolside cabana like we hadn't just crossed a line that would never be uncrossed. Around 5 a.m., I made coffee and started sorting through everything. Took screenshots of every post, every comment. Printed out bank statements, text threads, and tucked it all into a neat folder. Might sound crazy, but putting it on paper helped me think. The new locks I'd bought were still in their packaging, sitting right there on the kitchen counter. I hadn't installed them yet. That felt like a major step, one I couldn't walk back from easily. Then, at 6:25 a.m., Harold finally decided to chime in. First call I'd gotten from him. I let it go to voicemail. He left a 2-minute message that started off sounding concerned. But by the end, he was calling me immature. Said I was behaving like a child. Classic Harold. He's never liked me. Always thought I was beneath Sierra. Constant backhanded comments about my humble house or my old truck that he calls reliable. His polite way of saying cheap. He's made it crystal clear over the years that I wasn't the kind of success story he'd wanted his daughter to marry. I went to work like I always do, put in my hours, came back home. More messages were waiting. Logan, Dad, seriously. This isn't funny anymore. Mom's having a meltdown. Maya, Daddy, please. Just text back so we know you're okay. Sierra, Graham, I talked to the neighbors. They said your truck's been in the driveway all week. Why aren't you answering? Heather, hey Graham, everyone's really worried about you. Whatever this is about, this isn't the way to deal with it. Grow up. That one, Heather's, almost got to me. Almost. But then I remembered her laughing emoji under Logan's. He won't even notice post. I remembered her workaholic husband's jab. So no, she wasn't getting a reply either. That night, I sat down and built a financial firewall. I called every credit card company I had and removed Sierra as an authorized user. Logged into our mortgage account and made sure the next payment, due in 3 days, would come from my new solo checking account. Then I went to work on my payroll info and updated my direct deposit settings. Everything was now under my control. And then I did something that surprised even me. I opened up a fresh spreadsheet and started tracking our household expenses by percentage, who paid what and when, covering the past decade. The numbers didn't lie. They painted a picture Sierra was never going to want to see. 86% of our joint expenses came from my income. 93% of our retirement savings? Me again. The kids' college funds? Every single penny from me. What did Sierra bring to the table? Based on our bank history, her contributions mostly funneled straight back out for hair appointments, brunches with Heather, boutique shopping sprees, and what she liked to call household necessities. You know, the overpriced candles and throw pillows that no one was ever allowed to touch. Is that bitter? Yeah, maybe. But after 24 years of quietly feeling guilty for working too much, it hits different when you realize your hard work was the fuel behind everyone else's fun. And around midnight, I found something else. A text thread between Sierra and Heather, dated 2 weeks before my birthday. Sierra had texted Heather, "Should we even tell Graham about the trip?" Heather replied, "Why bother? He'll just complain about the cost." Sierra shot back, "True LOL. It's not like he ever pays attention to anything but work anyway." Heather, "He probably won't even notice until the weekend." And Sierra? She sealed it with, "If that soon." That was it. That was the moment something inside me just snapped. I'd been clinging to this tiny flicker of hope. Maybe it had all been a misunderstanding. Maybe something had gone wrong. But that text killed whatever hope I had left. By day 4 of their beach getaway, the tone of the messages shifted. Now it was all anger. Logan wrote, "Dad, WTF. Mom's been crying all night. What is your problem?" Sierra followed up with, "I don't know what game you're playing, but this is cruel, Graham." And Harold? He piled on, "You're proving exactly what I've always thought about you. Selfish and immature." Then came day 5. The panic started to creep in when they realized I still hadn't broken my silence. Sierra sent, "We're cutting the vacation short. Coming home tomorrow. Please be there." Maya wrote, "Dad, I'm scared. Something feels wrong. Please say something." Logan texted, "If you're doing this to mess with us, it's seriously messed up." Still, I didn't reply, but I was preparing. I moved all of Sierra's belongings, her clothes, her jewelry box, her books, into the guest bedroom. I changed the Wi-Fi password, locked down my computer with a new passcode. Nothing huge, but enough to send a message loud and clear. You can't pretend like nothing happened. That night, I got a voice message from Maya. Her voice was breaking, thick with tears. She said she was sorry, that she'd felt weird about the whole trip, but everyone, including Grandma Darlene, had told her not to worry. That calling me would have ruined the surprise. That Harold had paid for most of the trip and said it was about family bonding. I nearly caved. I almost called her back right then. But then I pictured her in those beach photos, laughing, lounging, smiling without a shadow of guilt, not looking the least bit conflicted. She's 21, an adult, And adults make choices. She made hers. The morning they were set to return, I installed the new deadbolt. Not to keep them out forever. I'm not out for revenge. But I wanted to make a point. They would have to ring the bell. They would have to stand there and face me, to acknowledge what they did instead of strolling in like everything was normal. I took the day off work and waited. At 2:56 p.m., I got a message from Sierra saying their flight had landed. At 4:32, I heard the Uber pulling into our driveway. I listened to the murmur of voices, the sound of suitcase wheels dragging across concrete. Then silence. That silence told me everything. They just realized their keys didn't work anymore. The doorbell rang. I didn't rush. When I opened the door, there they were. Sunburned, tired, trying to slap on fake smiles. Sierra held a gift bag that definitely hadn't been packed before they left. Logan was avoiding eye contact. Maya looked like she'd break into tears if I breathed too hard. Harold and Darlene stood at the back, arms crossed, faces full of judgment. I stood in the doorway and didn't say a word. Sierra went first, said they were worried. Said they called hospitals. Said they cut their trip short because they were so concerned. Then she shifted gears, talking about how the trip was meant to be a pre-birthday surprise. That things got complicated. That they were planning to celebrate when they got back. I didn't respond. I just pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and held it up with Logan's post, "He won't even notice we're gone, LOL." The silence that followed? It was perfect. Logan stared at his shoes. Maya's tears finally spilled over. Sierra reached for my phone. I moved it back without a word. Then Harold stepped forward like he was still king of the castle. Said this was ridiculous and we needed to talk like adults. That's when I finally spoke. I told him he wasn't welcome in my house. Not today. He could leave the luggage on the porch and go. The look on his face was priceless, like someone had slapped him. For the first time, someone told him no. Told him to get out. The great Harold, the self-appointed family patriarch, just stood there sputtering. Darlene tried to smooth it over, said maybe we could all talk tomorrow. I said sure, tomorrow works for them. But not for Harold. Ever. Once they left, I let Sierra, Logan, and Maya in. The house felt different with them there. Smaller somehow. Heavy with tension. Sierra immediately noticed her things were missing from the bedroom. She asked what I'd done. Demanded answers. That's when I walked over to the kitchen table and laid it all out. The folder. The screenshots. The bank records. The spending analysis. Everything. And then I asked one simple question: when exactly did I stop mattering to this family? Sierra tried to spin it, said I was being overdramatic. That it was just a vacation. That they planned to celebrate my birthday when they got back. So I showed her the messages. The ones between her and Heather. Her face drained of color. Logan tried to laugh off his Instagram post. Said it was a joke. People exaggerate online, he muttered. So I pulled up a collection of his past comments, every little jab he'd made over the last year about me being boring, absent, emotionally distant. His words dried up real fast. Maya cried. Through the sobs, she admitted the trip had been planned for months. That originally I was supposed to be included. But Harold had convinced Sierra it should be a family reset. Said I'd bring bad energy. That I'd ruin the mood. By 7 p.m., the truth was out. The ugly, painful truth they didn't want to say out loud. They'd rewritten who I was in their heads. Turned me into some sad caricature: Graham the workaholic. Graham the unfeeling dad. Graham the boring husband. It made it easier to justify leaving me behind. They convinced themselves I wouldn't care. That I wouldn't notice. That I didn't feel things the way they did. And the worst part? They weren't entirely wrong. I had let work define me. I had missed events. I had stayed quiet too often. But I wasn't quiet now. I told them I'd moved my money to a separate account. That I'd continue covering the mortgage and utilities for 3 months while Sierra figured out what came next. I made it clear I'd keep paying for Maya's education, but directly, not through them. Then I gave them the choice: rebuild this marriage on new terms or prepare for divorce. Logan blew up, said I was being cruel. Unfair. Stormed out of the house. Maya went to her room in tears. Sierra just sat there at the table, staring at that folder like it had shattered her whole understanding of the world. Like someone had just told her Santa Claus wasn't real. It was around midnight when my phone lit up one last time. A message from Sierra. I never meant for any of this to happen. The trip was supposed to be your gift. Some time alone to relax. We were going to surprise you with something special when we got back. I don't know how things got so twisted. I read it once. Then again. And again. Each time, I felt the same thing, nothing but disbelief. Even now, after everything, she was still spinning stories. Still trying to rewrite the truth. Like if she kept saying it with enough fake concern, I'd forget the facts. So I typed out a response. Took my time. I have the receipts, Sierra. All 56 of them. And about 100 more you don't even know exist yet. The time for lies is over. Then I powered down my phone and, for the first time in days, climbed into my own bed. I slept alone but not lonely. There's a difference. The next day was going to bring hard conversations. Probably even harder decisions. But for the first time in 24 years, those decisions were going to be made on my terms. Update. That first morning after the confrontation, I woke up at 4:17 a.m. to the sound of someone crying. It took me a minute to figure it out. Soft, muffled sobs coming from the guest room. It was Sierra. Here's the weird part. I didn't feel anything. No satisfaction. No guilt. Not even anger. Just nothing. For those asking how things have been since they came back. Well, it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks of walking on eggshells through breakfast and dinner. 2 weeks of slammed doors, quiet phone calls behind closed doors, and long silences between people who used to share a life. 2 weeks of reality creeping into a marriage that had been running on autopilot for far too long. I'll admit, the morning after they got back, I half expected something dramatic. Tears, apologies, someone falling to their knees begging to fix things. That's not what I got. Sierra came downstairs around 7:35 a.m., made herself a cup of coffee like it was any other Thursday, and asked, "So, you gotten it out of your system yet?" Like my silence had just been some tantrum. Like I was a child throwing a fit. I didn't say anything. Just pulled out my phone and slid it across the counter. Screenshots already open. The ones where she and Heather debated whether I'd even noticed they were gone. The one where she laughed at Logan's Instagram caption about me not caring. She stared at the screen for a moment, like she didn't recognize her own words. Then she tried a different play, said her phone must have been hacked, that someone had gotten into her account, that she never wrote any of it. At exactly 7:43 a.m., I realized something that hit me harder than I expected. My wife of 24 years would rather build a whole conspiracy theory than admit she'd been heartless. That's when I handed her the printed bank statements. Every withdrawal from our joint account tied to that trip, highlighted. Then the credit card statement from the card I hadn't even known existed. The one with $13,000 in charges for clothes, salons, spa days, and overpriced brunches with Heather. You want to know the craziest part? She didn't even seem that bothered about the money. She just waved it off, said Harold would help her pay it off. Said I was being petty. That I was focusing on nickels and dimes when the real issue was my so-called workaholism. Ain't that something? I work 50 hours a week to keep this house running, to give them everything they've ever needed, and suddenly, I'm the villain for not taking enough time off to entertain them. The kids, well, they each handled it their own way. Logan showed up around noon that first day, still looking rough, probably hungover. He went straight into defensive mode. Said I was blowing everything out of proportion. Said his Instagram post was just a stupid joke. Said I was being toxic by turning it into a big deal. So I pulled out my own phone and showed him the comments his friends had left. LOL, your dad sounds like mine. Total boomer energy. Bro. Just ghost him like I do when mine gets annoying. I looked him right in the eye and asked him, what kind of man mocks his own father online just to get likes? What kind of son takes $5,000 to start his adult life? Then turns around and blows the same amount partying at a resort his dad wasn't invited to. He didn't have an answer. Just mumbled something about how I don't get how social media works and stormed out. Hasn't been back since. 5 days and counting. Maya was different. She actually apologized. Said she felt pressured, like Harold and Darlene were calling the shots and she just went along with it. Said she wanted to call me on my birthday, but Sierra told her I was probably too busy to answer. I believe her. Mostly. But I also remember those pictures. Her smiling during sunset cocktail hour. Holding a drink she's not even old enough to order. Laughing in group selfies like guilt wasn't even in the picture. So yeah, I'm still paying for her college, but directly now. The payments go straight to the university, not through the joint account where money used to vanish like smoke. Then, around day 3 of their return, things took another turn. Harold showed up unannounced at 6:15 p.m., just as I was about to microwave dinner. He walked in without knocking. Turns out Sierra gave him the new door code. First words out of his mouth were about how I was tearing the family apart, how I was being unreasonable, that this was all some big misunderstanding I was blowing out of proportion. I didn't yell, didn't throw a fit. I just looked him square in the eye and asked, "How much did the resort cost?" He scoffed, said, "That's not the point." I asked again, "Harold, how much did you spend taking my family on vacation without me?" That's when he cracked. He said the trip cost $7,400 for 5 people, 5 days. Do the math. That's over $340 a day per person. I've never spent that kind of money on a vacation in my life. Our trips were always modest. Camping, road trips. A cheap motel with a pool was considered a treat. So then I asked him, "Do you know how much is in Maya's college fund?" He didn't answer. So I told him, 25 grand. Built up over 21 years. For $100 at a time. Money I could have spent on vacations. On upgrading my car. On fixing up the house. But I chose her future instead. Then I asked him how much he's contributed to his granddaughter's education. He turned red. Started stammering about how that wasn't the point. Said he gave Sierra and the kids other opportunities. Yeah, like the opportunity to abandon the one person who's been funding their lives. The chance to learn that loyalty is optional and respect can be traded in for Mai Tais and jet skis. I told him he had 30 seconds to get off my property or I'd call the police and report him for trespassing. He left. At 6:27 p.m. haven't heard from him since. That little episode didn't sit well with Sierra. She said I was cruel for talking to her father that way. Said I was jealous of him. That the real reason I was upset was because I could never give them the kind of experiences Harold could. And maybe there's a tiny grain of truth buried in there. I've never had Harold money. Never will. But what I have had is Harold time. 25 years. That's how long I spent grinding, showing up, putting in the hours, building a life from the ground up, while Harold enjoyed his early retirement courtesy of inherited wealth and a superiority complex. And by the end of that first week after the fallout, the battle lines were drawn. Sierra packed up and moved in with Heather. Temporarily, she said. Logan stopped answering my texts altogether. Just radio silence. Maya, though, she started coming around more. Usually when her mom wasn't around. The family fractured like dry plaster. 2 sides. Her side, complete with siblings and parents who rallied behind her with vague social media posts about supporting family during tough seasons. Meanwhile, my sister, who lives 3 states away and rarely gets involved, sent me a care package. A bottle of whiskey and a handwritten note. Always thought Sierra was kind of a princess, but this? Damn. Then came the financial reality check. 10 days after they returned from their All Smiles Beach getaway, Sierra called me in a panic. Her credit card had been declined at some overpriced boutique she loved. I'd already taken her off all my accounts. Removed her as an authorized user across the board. She wanted to know if I was really going to punish her by cutting off her access to money. I stayed calm. Spoke to her like I was explaining simple math to a kid. No one's punishing anyone, I said. I'm just separating our finances. What you earn is yours. What I earn is mine. The joint account has enough in it to cover the mortgage and utilities for the next 3 months. After that, we'll either be building something new or we won't be building anything at all. That's when the tears came. Real ones this time. But not for the marriage. Not for the pain she caused. The tears were for the money. At 11:43 p.m. that same night, I got a text from Harold. Just 4 words, let's discuss a settlement. I didn't respond. Because as far as I was concerned, there was nothing to settle yet. No divorce filings. No lawyers officially hired. Though I'd already had 3 consultations lined up. What we had was a family finally hitting the ground after years of floating on a cloud I'd built while pretending gravity didn't exist. Then, 2 weeks into this strange new normal, something I didn't expect happened. Logan showed up at my door. 8:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. Unshowered. Red eyes. Hair mess. He looked like he hadn't slept a wink. He didn't come to apologize, not exactly. It was more like reality had finally caught up with him. His new apartment, the one I helped him with? Turns out it costs money to live. Utilities. Internet. Groceries. All those things that just magically appeared when he lived at home? They have price tags now. He'd blown through his savings. Put resort excursions and drinks on his credit card thinking he'd figure it out later. Well, later had arrived. And he was drowning. There was a part of me, a small, bitter part, that wanted to tell him this was a valuable life lesson. That maybe he needed to struggle a bit. But the dad in me? He couldn't do it. So I made him breakfast. Sat him down. Taught him how to build a basic budget spreadsheet. Walked him through what stuff actually costs: rent, food, bills, insurance, the works. By noon, he looked like someone had just unplugged him from the Matrix. Not just because of the money stuff, but because for maybe the first time in his life, he saw what I actually did for this family. Beyond the paycheck. Beyond the lawn mowing and late nights and old pickup trucks. He saw the weight I carried. He didn't say sorry. Not in words. But then he did something that hit harder than any apology could have. Right there at the kitchen table, he deleted all his social media apps from his phone. Said he needed a break. Said he needed to get his head straight. Asked if he could come by on Sundays for help figuring out this adult stuff. Progress, I guess. Sierra? Different story entirely. Once the shock wore off, she shifted gears into full-blown damage control. Started reaching out to mutual friends, trying to rewrite the narrative. Made a long, vague Facebook post about healing through unexpected life transitions. She made it sound like I'd had some sort of mental breakdown. Heather became her loudspeaker, telling anyone who'd listen that I was going through a midlife crisis. That I was being financially abusive. That the vacation was supposed to be a gift to me. Not a betrayal. Not an exclusion. I didn't respond. I haven't countered any of it. Because the people who actually know me, they've seen the truth without me saying a word. The rest? Not worth my energy. Maya's been stuck in the middle. She feels guilty for going. Guilty for still wanting to talk to me. Guilty for being mad at her mom. It's just guilt stacked on guilt. I've told her again and again she doesn't need to pick sides. I'll always be her dad no matter what happens between Sierra and me. Her college is still covered. Her future's safe. 3 weeks in, Sierra came back for a real conversation. We sat at the kitchen counter, same spot we'd shared 1,000 cups of coffee over the years. And she asked if I was really going through with this. If I was seriously going to throw away 24 years of marriage over one mistake. I didn't say anything at first. Just picked up my phone. Pulled up the same 56 messages I'd shown her before. I asked her one question: which one of these even mentions my birthday? Which one says sorry for leaving me behind? Which one shows any real concern that wasn't just about being caught? She scrolled. She couldn't point to a single one. Then I asked her the thing that had been eating at me from the moment I saw that beach photo. When did I become someone you could just forget? When did I become so invisible that you thought I wouldn't care? Her answer? She said it wasn't sudden. That it had been building for years. Maybe even a decade. That she'd felt like we were living parallel lives. That she tried to connect, but I was always working. Always tired. Always buried in responsibility. Eventually, she just adapted. Built a life that didn't include me. And you know what? That hit me right in the gut. Because she wasn't completely wrong. I have missed moments. I have chosen overtime over dinner. I have fallen asleep halfway through movie nights and skipped parties to take calls from job sites. But I also showed up in the ways I knew how. I coached Logan's Little League games. I helped Maya build volcanoes and solar systems for school. I fixed the leaky pipes and cleaned the gutters. Kept food in the fridge and heat in the vents. And somehow that version of showing up didn't count anymore. We talked for 4 hours that day. Real talk. Painful talk. About expectations. About drifting. About how easy it is to stop seeing each other when you're just trying to survive the day-to-day. And just before midnight, she asked me if there was still a chance. If I could ever forgive her for the trip. The secret credit card. The years of quiet betrayal. I told her the truth. Maybe. Forgiveness might happen. But forgetting? No. That doesn't go away. I said that trust, once broken, never heals clean. It leaves a scar even if it closes. She moved the last of her things to Heather's place the next day. Said she needed time to figure out who she was without me. Whatever that means. It's been a month now since my 50th birthday. 1 month since I walked into an empty house and found out I was invisible to the people I thought I mattered most to. Some days I'm mad as hell. Other days I'm just flat out exhausted. But most days? I'm okay. More than okay, actually. Most days I'm starting to find a strange kind of peace, a quiet comfort in finally being seen by the one person who's ignored me for too long, myself. I've started swimming laps at the community center 3 mornings a week. Joined a hiking group that meets every Saturday. I even go to happy hour now and then with a couple guys from work. Nothing wild, just beer and conversation. But it feels good. Like I'm relearning how to exist outside the roles I've been stuck in. Logan comes over every Sunday now for what he calls adulting lessons. We cook dinner together, talk about rent and budgeting, credit scores and car maintenance. But more than that, we talk about life. Real things. Stuff we never had time or space for before. Maya splits her time between Heather's place and mine, trying to navigate this broken family map with as much grace as a 21-year-old can manage. She's doing her best. I see it and I appreciate it. Sierra texts me every day. Sometimes it's practical questions about the gas bill, insurance policies, or what day the mortgage auto-drafts. Those I answer. Straight to the point. No emotion. But then there are the other texts. The ones filled with old memories. Blurry photos from the early years. Little remember when moments. Those, I leave on read. Yesterday, I got a letter in the mail. A formal one, from a divorce attorney representing Sierra. Nothing aggressive. No cheap shots. Just the standard stuff, division of assets, shared responsibilities, next steps. Honestly, the requests were reasonable. She wasn't trying to bleed me dry. That part surprised me. As for me, I finally updated my social media for the first time in ages. Switched my relationship status from married to it's complicated. Because that's what it is. Life's complicated. People are complicated. Families, love, resentment, forgiveness. They're all tangled up in knots that don't unravel easily. But here's the one thing that's not complicated anymore. I'm not invisible. Not to my kids. Not to my friends. And most importantly, not to me. And that feeling, this newfound sense of clarity and self-worth, that alone was worth every damn penny of a beach vacation I never got to take.